Some people plan out their entire lives, every single step. And then there are the stories that happen completely by accident. Today, we're driving into one of those stories about a trader named Tori, whose 8-year journey to becoming a full-time trader was a wild ride she never even meant to take. It's a really powerful story about discipline, about failing, and about the resilience you need to succeed, not just in the markets, but, in life. And it all kicks off with some of the strangest advice you'll ever hear. I'm not kidding. That's literally the first thing her mentor, who also happened to be her uncle, told her. It's a pretty jarring way to start, right? But it turned out to be the single most important lesson she ever learned. It was basically an instruction to embrace failure, to see it as a totally normal, even valuable part of the game right from day one. So how in the world does someone with zero interest in stocks end up here? Well, just like the title says, it was pure chance. Tori never ever planned to be a trader. Her dreams were all about fashion or marketing. She just kind of stumbled into this whole world because her uncle needed help filming a project where he was teaching her sister how to trade. At first, she was just the techie person, the one running the camera. But while she was filming, something really clicked. And it wasn't the charts or the money or anything you'd expect. It was her uncle's lifestyle. I mean, the guy was always home, he had complete freedom with his time, and he was so calm and down to earth. He just totally shattered that stereotype of the frantic, stressed-out day trader you see in movies. And she started thinking, how does he do that? And that little spark of curiosity, well, it lit a fire. It led her to make a decision that completely changed her life, to learn trading directly from him. But his training method, let's just say it was pretty unconventional. Yeah, this was no get-rich-quick scheme. This was a marathon, not a sprint. Just look at this timeline. The entire first year was all about psychology. No charts, no strategies, just working on her mindset. That was followed by a full second year of strictly practice trading. This was the long game for sure. For anyone who doesn't know, simulated trading is basically a practice mode. It's like a flight simulator for traders. You use fake money, but you're in the real live market, so you can learn without risking a single penny. And her uncle was super strict about it. The rule was she was not allowed to use real money until she could prove she was consistently profitable in the simulator for an entire year. That takes some serious discipline. So after 2 solid years of intense preparation, it was finally time. Time to put all that training to the test. But reality had some other plans for her. She felt completely ready. I mean, who wouldn't after 2 years? She took her own savings, put her actual hard-earned money on the line, and jumped into the live market for the very first time. It was a total disaster. The strategy that had worked so well in practice just completely fell apart when real money and real pressure were involved. She was hit with immediate and just emotionally crushing losses. Wow. I mean, the honesty in this quote is just so powerful, isn't it? This wasn't just about losing a few bucks. This was emotionally devastating. She had to make the incredibly humbling decision to stop, admit she wasn't ready, and go all the way back to square one, back to practice trading. This is the key lesson she learned from that huge failure. There is this massive psychological gap between practice and reality. When you're using fake money, there's no emotion, so following your own rules is easy. But the second your real money is on the line, emotion just floods your brain, and suddenly, being disciplined is a whole different ballgame. Okay, so she went back, she regrouped, and eventually she was ready to try again. But even after getting over that first epic failure, there was still one last piece of the puzzle missing that was holding her back from real, consistent success. So think about it. She had the strategy down cold. She now totally understood the emotional side of trading. She'd faced failure head-on and come back from it. So what on earth could still be holding her back after all this time and effort? Turns out the problem had nothing to do with her system. It was that she just wasn't doing it consistently. She'd be working her side jobs, life would get busy, and she'd take a few weeks off, maybe even a month. And by being inconsistent, she was missing the big winning trades her system was designed to catch, which meant it often felt like she was only showing up for the losses. This realization was the moment that everything changed. It was like she just flipped a switch in her head. Once she truly understood that inconsistency was the real enemy, she made a conscious choice to fully commit. No more breaks, no more excuses, just consistent daily effort. And that was the final key that unlocked everything for her. After she made that mental shift, She went into overdrive. She worked multiple jobs at restaurants, at the YMCA, all while trading every single day until she had saved up this exact amount, $5,000. That was her launch pad. That was the money she needed to finally quit her other jobs and take the leap into being a full-time trader. But, becoming a successful trader wasn't the end of her story. Not even close. When she decided to start sharing her journey online, she ran into a whole new kind of challenge. Just an unbelievable amount of public scrutiny. This is something she heard constantly. There's this really weird skepticism in the trading community that if you're actually successful, you'd never talk about it. You'd just be quietly making millions in a basement somewhere. The idea that you'd want to share your journey is, to them, proof that you must be a fake. And her experience really isn't unique. It kind of points to this bigger question, right? Why is there so much negativity pointed at people who decide to share their knowledge and their story publicly, especially in a field like finance? For Tori, the attacks were specific and just relentless. People accused her of not being a real trader. They claimed the only way she made money was from selling courses, because her strategy was too simple to actually work. And on top of all that, she had to deal with intense sexism for being a woman in such a male-dominated world, with people constantly trying to invalidate her or just focusing on her appearance. And this is where the two halves of her story, the trader and the creator, really connect. The same exact discipline she had to learn to manage losses in the market, that became the resilience she needed to handle all the hate online. It turns out the real journey wasn't just about charts and numbers. It was about developing an unshakable inner strength. Ultimately, she decided to keep going, all because of this simple, powerful idea. She realized her purpose was to share her authentic story, to help other people on their own journeys. And that mission was way more important than any of the noise from online haters. Tori's story started as an accident, it was forged through failure, and in the end, it was defined by resilience. It really leaves us with a pretty powerful question to think about. What journey, big or small, are you holding yourself back from starting just because you're afraid of the stumbles you might take along the way?